Moin und herzlich willkommen zu How to China, dem Podcast rund um das Thema Produktion in China. Mein Name ist Moritz und heute geht es um das spannende Thema Quality Control und dazu habe ich einen meiner Geschäftspartner aus China eingeladen, der euch hilfreiche Tipps geben kann, wie und warum man mit Qualitätsmanagern vor Ort arbeiten sollte. Außerdem redet er über das neue Zollgesetz CIQ und wie die Corona-Krise das Produzieren in China beeinflusst. Das Interview haben wir auf Englisch aufgenommen und das Ganze ging über Skype. Ich hoffe, die Qualität ist in Ordnung. Jetzt aber lasst uns direkt starten und ganz viel Spaß beim Zuhören. All right, let's do this. I'm here with Habib today. Habib is the owner of a company in Shenzhen with focus on quality control. He's originally from Morocco, and he has already worked in France and Germany, and therefore he has a good knowledge of the European market. After 7 years as an employed quality director, he founded his own company called QC Advisor. You can find the link in the show notes, and he looks after customers from all over the world who need help with the control of their products. So I know how important it is to have a trusting and good QC, especially during these crazy times. And so I'm glad that you're here today. Thanks for being here and welcome, Habib.
Thanks, Maurice. Nice to have you.
Yeah, Habib, I would like to start with a basic question for the beginning. What is quality control, or short QC, in general?
In general, quality control is here to ensure that the product you are manufacturing, either at your own facilities or at the supplier facility, is meeting your specification or any other standard. So it's here mostly after the product is made or during the product manufacturing, to make sure that that product is meeting the requirement. It's different from quality assurance or other aspect of quality, like quality management. It's mostly on the ground, directly with the product, directly dealing with the specification, the standards, and so on. So it can be done either in raw material phase, during production, or after production.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. And how does your daily business look like, and how has it changed in the past few months during the Corona crisis?
So normally our business is mostly focusing on consumer goods. We work a lot with Europe. We also work a little bit with USA and countries like Australia. Of course, we have some other countries, but in less volumes. But our main market is Europe. So we used to work with companies that import consumer goods like kitchenware, home appliances, sport products, sport equipment, also like industrial equipment and machine, etc., and so on. So our job is to make sure that these companies, because mostly these companies, they are based in Europe and they have supplier in Asia. In most of the cases, China. And they do not have enough people, or not people at all, in Asia. So they need us, third-party quality control company, to make sure that their goods are well controlled before the shipment, before they leave the factory. So our job is mostly going at the factory, making sure to perform an inspection according to a defined scope of inspection. So this scope of inspection include the general requirements, our own internal requirement, but of course also additional specific requirement from the client and any other standard. For example, if we do electrical item for Europe, we will follow our own checklist of inspection for electrical item, including like some safety tests. For example, we have the value for Europe depending on the class of the item of the product. We also have other specification from the client, like like the dimension or some performance specification, etc. Or marking, for example, shipping mark. And we're going to mix all these requests into an inspection scope, and our team will go there in the factory, mostly at the end of the production, just before the shipment, make sure all the products, all the item are met by the product, the packaging, the marking, etc., etc. And then we submit a report, inspection report, to our client, which they review. If there are non-conformities or there are issues, etc., either we usually our client will ask the supplier to implement corrective action, or if it's like minor, or if they think it's okay, they can just let the goods to be shipped. So this is our usual business. But as you might have seen, since, let's say, after the Chinese New Year this year, so early February, the situation started to be very, very different, because usually after the Chinese New Year we have during the Chinese New Year normally there is no orders, because all the factories in China are closed, or most of them are closed, and mid-February, end of February, we start having again the orders. But this year it was a little bit different, because as you know, China during February was in most area in complete lockdown. So factories were also affected. Workers could not be back to their factories for work. So we had a very bad February. So orders were placed, because orders are placed before, like in December, January, but factories could not fulfill the orders, because either they didn't have manpower, or they could not have enough raw material, etc., etc. All the supply chain was affected during February, so no one could manufacture during this month. Now, since, let's say, mid-March 2020, so during the outbreak, we see a new business that is exploding. It's all the medical device and PPE business. So we have now a lot of orders that are, let's say, compensating the loss we had for other orders, like general consumer goods, that helping us a little bit during this period. So now we have many requests for masks, for PPE, for glove, gowns, goggles. We don't do test kit, because it's not in our scope of business, and it's a little bit more it's tricky. It's different skills, it's different requirement. But we do all the other, let's say, all the other protective equipment and medical devices. So mask, triply, a lot of triply, KN95. This is very, very common now. Yes, and other one. So yes.
Yeah, and do you have or is your main focus at the moment only on medical products, or do you still have the regular products, what you usually check, like electronics or textiles, or how do you think people should act now when they have normal products, not medical products, but everybody focus on it, and they don't find QC or something? What are your thoughts about it? And what do you think?
Now we have certain categories that are still okay. We are still doing inspection, for example, for kitchenware. We are still doing inspection for some industrial equipment, for some very big projects, for example, for promotional item. Small one are less, so it depends also the size of the companies. We have other product like related to retail that completely disappeared. We don't see anything now, like all the retail product, like fast fashion, etc. This is really like a disaster for this industry. But no, we still have inspection. We do a lot of like all this like home equipment, gardening, etc. This is we still work normally for this item. Really, there is no disruption for this kind of item. For other item like small companies doing like a promotional item, companies that are doing like retail business, etc. Garments, yeah, this is much more affected. But yeah, so building material not affected. We still have orders, but I think it will be in few weeks or a few months, because the effect is like 2 months later. Yes, so let's say we have less order. We lost orders in some industries, but this was compensated by the new orders from the like all equipment related to the pandemic.
Okay. And you said before that usually you go at the end of the production, you go into the factories, check the products, check the quality, the amount of quantity the people ordered. And is it always at the end, or would you also suggest the customers to come at the beginning or during the production? What is the best way to do it?
Now the equipment for pandemic is a different situation, because when we inspect usually when we inspect an order, it always work in a very clear way. So you have like a client ordering goods, there is a PO, purchase order, with a quantity, with specification about the product, and then the factory will give some like timing. They say in 1 month or 2 months. Then they will produce your goods with the right quantity, and then we will come at the end and do the inspection and then ship everything. So usually in these cases, we have, in the most strict case, an audit of the supplier before the order, because the buyer does not know the supplier. So they want to make sure the supplier is legit, they can produce their goods, etc. But in most cases, supplier is either like a recurrent or known by the buyer. So we don't need to do this step, and we just do the pre-shipment inspection directly. This is for the normal situation before the pandemic. Now what we see is mostly a completely new organization in terms of production, because the factories, especially for example for masks, they are producing as much as they can all the time, 24 hours, 7 days 7. And because the demand is very high, so you have it's like the fish market, you know, the buyers, they just come and they try to find what they can, and then they buy it. So you have like stocks of masks in a factory, and then these stocks are just like purchased every day by agents that are selling them to Western buyers or people all around the world. So in this case, what we do, because it's very risky, because most of the time supplier will ask for 100% payment in advance. We go to the factories before they place the order, before the client places the order, because the client cannot just take this risk and pay 100% of 200,000 euro, or even sometimes much more, because now we see a lot of big orders for masks, like 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, sometimes 10 million masks. So what we do is we go automatically before the payment. So before the payment is done, we do a full check, I mean, as much as we can, because we see a lot of cooperation issue, factory that do not cooperate because they have so many orders, they don't care actually. If you don't want to buy, it's okay, it's not a problem. So we just go there, we check their document, we check their production capacity, we take some samples, even though these are not the client samples, like the production from the client, but as the production is always running on the same path and the same raw material, the same product, so we just check their quality, this factory quality, and then we check the goods, we check the mask. If we take example of the mask, we check all the certificate they have, we check their business license on the government database to see if there is any issue or inconsistency. For example, if a factory has a business license to manufacture underwear and they are manufacturing masks, then you can be sure that this factory is doing this for 2 or 3 weeks, because many factories switch their production from unrelated industries to mask production. So this can help you to know your supplier more. It does not mean that you are going to stop working with them, but just to know a little bit more who is the supplier, what are the risks, etc. We check the certificate, the so-called CE certificates. We check other certificate, the quality management, for example, ISO 13485. So this is like a medical equipment quality management system certificate. So for example, if the factory has this quality management certificate for medical equipment, it's a good sign, and then we can check it online from the issuing body, like for example SGS or TUV. We can go and check on their website if the certificate is real, and it gives us more confidence on the factory. For example, if I go now to a factory that does mask, if they have this certificate, if it's real, if they have business license with mask for, let's say, 2 or 3 years or even more, if they have production running, then I can be very confident about the product without even testing it. I have much more confidence. Like my confidence rate is going straight to 80%, let's say. If I arrive to a factory, I'm not checking any product yet. If I arrive to a factory, I check their business license. They don't have the business scope because in every business license you have a business scope. You can see in the business scope, it's written in Chinese. You can see which product or which service or which item they can do, they can produce, what they can sell, etc., etc. So if you don't see like medical mask, for example, this can be a red light. So beside this, so this is the first step. We check also the capacity, mostly for big orders. We check what are the stock in the warehouse. If they have a lot of stocks, for example, if I have a client that wants to buy 1 million masks, I need to check if they have 1 million masks in their warehouse. Because if they don't have, maybe my client will have his order too late, or maybe he will not have his order at all. So the capacity of the factory is also something important, of course, based on the client's request. And then after that, after checking the certificate, the document, the capacity, we go to check the product itself. So we'll check the packaging first, the packing, what's written on the packaging. Sometimes it's important because sometimes you can be blocked if you don't have some marking on your packaging. We check the product itself, its function. We have several tests, functional tests that will help us not to know that the mask is complying with such like standard like EN 149 or other standard. It will not allow us to know that the BFE is 95% or 99%. For this, you need to make a laboratory test in an accredited lab. It takes 3 to 4 weeks. But we will make sure that the mask is working. We'll make sure that the mask, for example, we do like a flame test to make sure that the material inside is not fake. We have some way to do this. For example, when you take a 3-ply mask, there are always, most of the case, 3 layers of material, of fabric. There is a non-woven fabric on the first step outside. I mean, the first material, the first layer outside, and inside there is very critical fabric, which is the melt-blown fabric, and then again you have another layer of non-woven fabric. So there is a test, for example, to check if the melt-blown fabric is fake or no. It does not tell you what kind of melt-blown fabric it is, because this you need to do a lab test. But we can just by passing like a small flame with the lighter to see if the fabric will take fire. I mean, we will have a fire or no. If it's just melting a little bit, it's okay. It should be a real melt blown. If it's not, you are sure that it's not. That's the melt blown fabric inside is fake. So this is critical, because in case the melt blown fabric is fake, it might be completely useless. I mean, the filtration might be very bad. So if you sell, for example, your mask to a hospital, you might have to throw all the mask as it happened like last weeks in Holland, in Australia, in Belgium, etc.
Do you know what kind of material they use in the middle layer? It's paper.
It's melt blown fabric.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a very critical raw material, which is now in short supply. So this is why we check this, because it is in short supply. So we make sure the factory is really using the right melt-blown fabric. Then there are some other tests, for example, for the ear loop. You know, the ear loop, the small loop that goes to
over the ear
to hold the mask. Yes. So this one we do some pulling tests also to check if it's not breaking easily, because if the ear loop are breaking easily, the whole mask is useless. We do some as I said before, with the lighter again. We try to braid. Yeah, we do the waterproof test as well. So no water should go through the mask. Yes, so these are the kind of functional tests we do. Then we check few masks randomly from a few carton, and so there are some rules. We follow some sample rules, and we check if the mask, for example, has all the components, all the material that is requested. So yes, these are part of the scope of inspection we have to implement during the inspection.
And the customer will book everything over your website. They write all their requirements and what they want to have be checked, and everything on the website, and then you start from there on, right?
Yes. So usually what happens is the client will agree first with the supplier that they will have an inspection, and they will go to our website, book an inspection or audit or whatever service they need. Our system will inform the supplier that there will be an inspection at this date, and we ask them to confirm. Then when they confirm, our team will prepare the inspector to go there, all the inspection scope, the protocol for inspection, the document, etc. Then we will send an inspector to the factory and perform the inspection.
Okay, and
so this is how it works. And later all the report, etc. is stored in our online system, and it's sent by email as well. So yes, in the same day. This is something we do quite well. We always try to send our report the same day, so client can take fast decision, because we always know that it's always in a hurry just before the shipment. So we try to send the report in the same day.
Okay. And what if a customer decides to order something? They found the supplier on Alibaba, for example, the classic way to find a supplier in China, and they don't want to work with external QCs. They want to do it their own. And what are the most important steps to avoid, for example, quality issues with Chinese suppliers, or how can they trust them, and if they're not in the country and they can't check it themselves?
But to be honest, I don't know the answer besides sending someone. I mean, if you don't want to send your own, if you don't want to send a QC company or it's so you are going to now if you don't have any team here, because now many foreigners cannot enter in China. Now. It's quite difficult to manage your quality, make sure that the supplier is legit, etc. if you don't visit them by yourself or using someone like reliable to go to the factory and make assessment, etc. So I would say it's because the question is, I mean, either you go by yourself, either you send someone on your behalf. These are the two ways I know. Unless you have some product that is very, very easy to control or something like, I don't know, like a postal card or something like this, like you can control just by checking a picture. But yes, it's important to go there by yourself because there are always like surprises and you need always to make some changes. You need always to make sure about some details that can be very costly later if you don't consider at the beginning.
Especially during this time, we always have something new. We hear something new every day, like a new law or someone was talking about some changes during production or during customs or during shipment. Everything, the prices are going high. Not even with the products, but especially also with the shipping companies. The raw material, of course. But what we heard on, I think it was Sunday, in my last episode of the podcast, I already talked about it. It's the new customs law, CIQ, China Inspection Quarantine. I don't know if you heard about it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And how does it affect the business and production or shipping lead time?
But to be honest, from the case I saw recently, since April 1st, when there was a first, so in April 1st, the Ministry of Commerce of China, of People's Republic of China, they released a list of licensed or accredited companies that can manufacture and export a list of products related to the pandemic, like either mask, either PPE, gloves, guns, goggles, or even test kit. So this, at the beginning, everyone was very scared, because buyers said, okay, we only need to buy from these factories, and there would be a lot of competition, a lot of people buying from the same factory, so it would be completely crazy. But actually, from my observation, I think that, as usual, as you can see, Chinese suppliers are very smart and they adapt very quickly. So at the end, when you need to have like a certificate with a stamp and the name on it, it's always easy to get in China. So I think this part is not the most difficult or most challenging, because first it's from the supplier responsibility, so it's the responsibility of the supplier to do the export or the manufacturer, and usually they always have the way to do it. From the client we inspected last 2 weeks, we didn't see any bad feedback. They usually have either, even if it's not a factory within the list, they always find a way to do their work. Second is Chinese are very very fast to adapt to this kind of regulations. They always find a solution. The most difficult, the most challenging is the arrival country. The importing country. So yes, for example, I have France, Belgium, Spain, Portugal. We've seen some issue like confiscated masks that were seized by the customs, especially when it's over 5 million. It's very risky. We see a lot of fake certificates. This is like every day I see fake certificates. In most of the cases, the certificates are fake and are useless. You might even import mask without this certificate. So people are just like factories in China are just like making the certificate. They're doing FDA registration certificate, which actually does not mean anything, because to have FDA registration, you just need to pay money and register in their website, and then you get a certificate that you are registered. But it does not mean that you comply with the American standard or something like this. This is what people tend to misunderstand regarding FDA. Okay, when you see like FDA with the eagle, etc., you think, okay, this is complying with American standard. Okay, it's done. Where I'm okay with all the stuff. And then you see like a CE certificate. There are so many inconsistencies where, we are laughing at it when we see this, because we know that some notified body might not issue certificate for medical device, or some notified bodies might not issue, we have some names of notified body, and we can see directly, okay, this one, like this Italian body, they cannot do medical device, and on the certificate it's written medical device, so it does not make sense. These kind of inconsistencies, we can see the date, we can see always the same name on the certificates. It's funny because we see this every day, and actually these certificates are not very useful. In some cases, you might not need such certificate. You might only need like a technical file or a technical like document regarding the test, regarding the marking, regarding the specification of the product, and that's all.
Yeah, that's what we had a few weeks ago. We worked together. You checked one factory for me, but what would you say when you receive a fake certificate? You check it in the background and you find out it's a fake certificate. Do you think it's always because the supplier want to how should I say it? Maybe they want to trick you or something, or is it? Do they know that it's fake, or how do they do it, or why do they do it?
But what I know is that the suppliers or the manufacturer do not always know that the certificates are fake and useless. Because you can see now many suppliers in China, they say, okay, I have like 5 million masks, have CE, have FDA, that's all. For them, okay, you have the CE, you have FDA, okay, you can export to all countries in the world. The reason is because many suppliers are not knowledgeable about this industry, about medical equipment, about PPE, and they recently switched to manufacturing such masks. So what happened to some of them is that they hire an agency in China that they will pay a lot of money. I'm talking about like few $1,000s to get this certificate, and then they got also cheated by these companies that give them like these companies will usually ask them, okay, you need to give me like samples, you need to give me lab tests, and I will manage everything for you. But actually they just Photoshop a PDF certificate, or they change something, and then they give them a certificate with a C, and so on, etc. Or they will give them a real FDA registration, so you can find out the registration online on the FDA website, but it does not mean anything. It does only mean that this company is registered with the product information, their address, their name, etc. So everyone think, okay, I have FDA, means I can export to America. I'm complying with all the standards, but actually many people are misunderstanding this. So of course there are some other ones that will know exactly what they are doing, but yeah, there are kind of both inside.
Yeah, but how do I do it when I get the sample, the certificate, and I checked it online? That's what I did in the past, where I wasn't very skilled about that, all that stuff. So and then I see, okay, it's registered. At least I finally I found one which is registered on this website. And but what is the real way to do it, to find if this is a real certificate and not just a registered company?
As I said before, one of the way to make sure that the certificate is real is first to check. What certificate it is? Is it like a certificate of compliance? Is it just like a declaration of compliance? What are we talking about? This is the first thing, and after that you need to check which organization is providing this certificate. Mostly here for the pandemic equipment, we have two main legislation, especially for Europe. Talking now about Europe, we have the medical device legislation, and then we have the PPE, personal protective equipment legislation, that are concerned for the certificate, for a CE certificate. These two legislation are, let's say, there are some notified bodies for each of the legislation, either medical device, PPE, other equipment like toys, etc., that can submit a certificate of compliance regarding this legislation. The first thing you want to do in this case is check if the notified body, let's say, I don't know, ECM or ICR. We see a lot of ECM and ICR these days, fake certificate, are notified to submit a certificate of compliance for the kind of legislation we're talking about. For example, ECM is not notified for personal protective equipment. So if you check a certificate with ECM name, with the recent date, this is a very big sign, because they stopped they withdraw all the certificate of March, because there were so many fake certificates issued in March. If you have this and then you have protective equipment, okay, it does not make sense. It means that your certificate is a fake. But it does not mean that it's the end of the world and that you're not going to work with the supplier. You just need to make sure that the product you're going to import to Europe have the right document. Sometimes you don't need this kind of certificate. Sometimes you might just need like a technical file, all the product information, some test report, and I know that some countries, for example, like France, they are being more flexible for that, because they know there is emergency, there is a big issue of lack of mask in France. So the authorities are being more flexible for importing mask. For example, some countries are still very strict, like Belgium. So again, you just know that it's fake certificate. Okay, don't panic, but just look at what you really need to import the mask. And after that, when you are sure about the documentation, you are sure about what you should need to import your product, then you make a inspection.
Okay.
Before you pay the. So basically, all the document check, you can do it for free by yourself if you go on internet or something, or if we can also help to do it. We have a small fee for that, a very small fee. Just to check the business license, the certificate, all these documents. And you don't have to go to the factory to do that. And after this, when you are confident, so it's like step by step. When you are confident, you go to visit the factory, check the capacity, check who they are, check if it's like dodgy, if it's like it smells good or it smells bad, you know.
Yeah.
And then check the product. So how is the what I mentioned before, function check, etc., etc.
Okay. Yeah, nice. All right. And finally, you just talked about your fee, for example, when you want to check the certificates. But very important also for all the listeners, we have a lot of startups or entrepreneurs who need to know how much is it to book your service, and can you tell the approximate costs of a QC per day, for example, and what is included? Flights, hotels, expenses, Yeah.
So basically now for if we will only talk about the visit we do, like the factory audit and inspection for the current situation for the pandemic product, like not pandemic product, I mean pandemic related product, sorry. We have supplier audit and we have inspection. We have customized the scope based on what we talked before, like the fact that factories are working all the time. They are not working for a client with a specific order. They just produce as much as they can, etc., etc. So about the fact that we need to check the certificates, we have changed our scope a little bit slightly to be able to cover all these important checkpoints. So we do audit and inspection, and we kept it as simple as possible, focusing only on what's important for the client to also make it cost efficient. So our audit and our inspection are both at $280 all inclusive in the coverage area we have in China. So most of industrial areas we're able to cover the factories in most China, unless it's like very, very remote. But in most of the case, the price for an audit or an inspection is $280 all inclusive.
Okay, nice. Great. Yeah, if you want to know more about Habib and his service, you will find all details in the show notes, as I said before. And yeah, many great tips and tricks how to handle this situation. Yeah, thank you, Habib.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Maurice.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.